Good morning, everybody. Is it a dream or a reality? Can you make money flipping horses or just even break even? We're going to take a look into what to expect if you're selling or buying horses in today's market. And don't go anywhere because we've got an equitation hot seat. Join me, Laura, and our guest today, Patrick Malone of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Hi there, Patrick. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yes. Well, it's great. It's great to see you again. Patrick Malone is from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and has a lifetime of horses, being an avid pony clubber growing up. He's a certified competition coach with a strong emphasis on developing skills with the rider to achieve their goals. He started eventing when he was younger and then switched over to the hunters. He started a breeding program 3 years ago. He owns warm bloods, and his business includes buying horses, training, teaching, coaching, and he also works full-time outside of the equestrian community. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
And my name is Laura, Kelland-May. Welcome to Equestrian Skill Builders. If you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, or generally like other horsey-related stuff, then you're in the right place. Give us a thumbs up or like this channel, and we will get going here. I empower riders to go from no direction to feeling confident, in control, and in harmony with their horse so they can win more ribbons at their next horse show. I'm a competition coach specialist, high performance trained Equestrian Canada senior judge and steward, and as a live show producer, I can help you create a successful weekly broadcast. There we go. Okay, Patrick, I own one horse right now. I used to own a few more before, but now just own one. How many horses do you own?
Currently 4, and a broodmare that's to deliver in May, and I co-own another broodmare that's due. So
how many
they add up. 6, yeah. And then 2 foals. Most of them are young. A couple are foals, and 1 show horse.
Excellent. So what are you going to do with your show horse?
I haven't quite decided. Probably going to go to the hunters this year and see how that goes, and maybe dibble in the jumpers.
Excellent. So selling horses sounds like a dream job or side job. Then you first stop, but then you take a look at things. Sometimes you just don't make money. Are you making any money selling your horses?
Yeah, it depends on the business approach you have with it, and it depends on your resources. It's a little bit easier when you have your own place because you cut the cost down, opposed to somebody that doesn't have a place and just boards out. So if you've got a partnership and it works well, then that's probably the best avenue to go towards.
Co-partnership. So we've got a comment here from Allison. Thank you, Allison, for your comment. Appreciate it. Co-own can be difficult. Yeah. So Patrick, you co-own a couple of horses, it sounds like. Are they owned with the same person?
Yeah. And I think it's important to co-own with a person that you can trust, and a person that you've got a good relationship with. Yes, it doesn't work with everybody. But if you find the right person, it can be successful.
Yes. So how do you find that right person? So you probably had a relationship with this person for quite a while, and she owns the broodmares, right? Is it the broodmares that you own?
We co-own the broodmare together, and then I own the other broodmare solely by myself. I think the biggest thing is, for me, is networking. The more people you get to know, the more the people get to know you. There's lots of people out there that, have different views, and depends on who you work well with. And if you get to know people and they get to know you, sometimes a working relationship works out.
Right. So most of the time, people buy a horse that's not trained or has little training. They buy them at a cheap price, and then they put some value into it. Is that, I mean, that's what I've done. For example, buying a horse off the racetrack. That's what a lot of people are doing. But there's other ways you can value add to your horse. What what's your main? You've got brood mares. Do you buy horses off the track? Do you buy them?
Yeah,
I don't know.
track horses, anything really that comes up that I think is suitable. For myself, the breeding is for solely for myself. They're not necessarily going to be sold at the moment. They're for me to develop. I think people that are horse shop generally are looking at the dollar sign rather than the best fit. I've come across people that say, well, I only have this much money and this is what I want. And they try to go with the cheapest horse and it's not necessarily the best fit. So I think you really have to either, know what you're shopping for, or you have to shop with somebody get help with somebody that's experienced. Because there's a lot of factors to consider besides, that cheap horse that you want to buy.
Yeah, for sure. So, Allison, thank you again for the comment. And a contract. Now, it's so important to have a contract, even a simple who's responsible for what, with whom, that type of contract. Do you do contracts with your people that you're dealing with? I mean, just doing one right now, I made a simple purchase agreement.
The person that I kind of work with the horses, I don't. I mean, outside of the horses, I'm good friends with the person. So, I mean, we have a really good understanding of each other. And I mean, if it's somebody else I'm working with, maybe typically don't do a lot of business with multiple people. So I try to keep it kind of low key. And but contracts, definitely, you can end up in a little bit of a battle with somebody, or you can end up being enemies with that person if you don't have everything written out, who's responsible for what, because we know at the end of the day, somebody can say, well, I paid this much and you didn't contribute. And so clear understanding is probably the best bet.
Yeah, clear understanding, and both parties have a clear understanding about it. So there's another way. Oh, there's Charlie says, good morning. Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for showing up here today. There's another person who's probably bought and sold a fair number of horses in her day. Hey, Charlie. So sometimes you can, I know you mentioned that you bought horses off the feedlot as well, like I've bought horses at auction and you bring them along. What is the big deal about buying horses from a feedlot or from an auction? Like, how can you resell those horses?
My experience with those type of horses is that a lot of them are there for a specific reason. When I was doing it in the past, it was basically to save the horse and try to get the horse probably the best home. Most of the horses, had a lot of issues. They weren't sound. They could never be sound, with the exception of, maybe a couple. It really was more just sinking money into them to save them and find them home. So that was just the gratification of, trying to help those horses. But, that was not really profitable. It was more just, let's save this horse. And I mean, I have a couple that we've saved that do show, but it was far few in between to find one of those.
Yeah. So, Ted, do you have any special horses that you did get from a feedlot or an auction that really did well that you could share with us?
Years ago, I rescued 2 ponies from the feedlot. Both of them stayed locally. One of the ponies had foundered, but the pony is manageable. It's sound and rideable, and I do know a friend that has the pony and her kid's riding it. That pony was ready for meat. I did save another one with a lady. End up being a jumper. Nothing wrong with the pony. It was just in the feedlot and a little appy pony, and it's being loved by multiple multiple kid lessons and showing. So those are kind of some successful stories. But again, those are hard to find. I have saved horses in the past that were severely malnourished and underweight. They had a lot of health issues. One, for example, a good friend of mine has it for therapy, and it's strictly just a therapy horse, and the horse is wonderful for that, and that's what it'll be for the rest of his life. And it's had a foal, and I have the offspring from it. But that mare had a hard life, and because you don't know the history of these horses, you don't know what's really going on or what went on, so it's hard to diagnose things too.
Yeah, I know. I did a informal survey at one of the groups on Facebook that I belong to, and asked, what is it the top 3 things that you look for when you are purchasing a horse, well, let's say from somebody you don't know. And the top things were soundness, of course, temperament, and the thing it was being used for. But there was somebody who was absolutely adamant about the breeding and needed to have certain bloodlines and needed, that was the number 1 thing. So what's your top 3 things? If you are going to some place, if you're going to buy a horse, what's your top 3?
I would say, what's the use for the horse? What is your intended use? Because if we're talking a recreational rider, opposed to somebody that's looking for an equitation horse, then we're at 2 different spectrums, right?
Right.
You could live with some maintenance issues on a horse that's just a recreational rider, and you may have things that are a little bit worse if you're looking for something that's more a competitive horse. Soundness is a big thing. I think the biggest thing that people don't do when they buy horses is they do this on their own. Again, I'm all about networking. There's, I know a ton of people. My friend knows a ton of people. The next person I know knows a ton of people. I think the best thing is to just to ask around and say, the horse world's big, but it's small. And we all work together to help each other. And it's best to know maybe somebody's experience with a horse from that person. They can give you a good reference. Maybe there's been some stuff that's been going on with that person. So networking is a big thing. So intended use, soundness. I don't think bloodlines are relevant. I'm not a bloodline person. I mean, it's always nice to have a nice horse that's bred very well.
But now, Patrick, now that you have this one in your stable that you really, really, really like, you're going to look for that bloodline again, are you not? The horse that you have now.
I've bred that bloodline again. But on a level of the average person that's horse shopping for a Trillium horse, let's say, or a bronze horse or schooling, bloodlines are irrelevant. In the whole spectrum, unless you're operating a breeding program where you've got intended use to breed the horse to produce offspring that are high performance horses, you can't ride papers. Plain and simple.
No, that's down on your list, right? So
it's not the main thing.
Temperament,
right?
And the main use are probably more important rather than if they've got that certain paper behind them. Although people do like to have that paper, it's a registered thoroughbred or a sport horse or whatever bloodlines that they like to have, right?
I think for the case of somebody that's investing into a horse, having a horse that's papered and registered is more valuable, especially if it's a mare, right? If the mare ends up being going unsound and never can get sound, well, you've got good bloodlines to breed it, right? Or sell it as a brood mare to somebody. But for the average person that Trillium shops or does local showing or papers, to me are it's irrelevant. It's like people saying I only want to buy a gray horse. Well, I mean, good luck. Gray horses are lovely to find, but I mean, you may find a horse that's dark bay that's perfect for you. So, I mean, everybody has a preference, but it may not be exact to what people are looking for.
Right. So I've got a comment here from, oops, that's not me. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this one, Lindy Berry. Thank you so much, Lindy. I really appreciate your coming and commenting here. It can be a long process getting some of the rescued horses sound and sane enough for resale. Yeah, sound and sane. So that's like the top two things that people are wanting to find are sound horses and temperament.
Safe.
And for the safe and sane. Yeah.
Yeah.
For intended use. And Lindy, you've got a lot of experience doing that. I know that. Lindy has a stable up in Cobden area here where we live, and she does a lot of rescues, and she knows how long a process it is. Thank you so much, Lindy, for that comment. And Karen Webster, thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for commenting here. Good idea. Excellent. Thank you so much, Karen. Now, during our live broadcast this morning, we do encourage you to ask questions and leave comments because that just makes it really more interesting for everybody who's involved. If you have experience selling or buying horses, we'd like to hear your story. Just put it in the comments, and we'll read it here for everybody. So, getting back to this, buying unbroken horses. There's a lot of people who do that. They buy a 2-year-old and keep it for a year or two and then break it and then reselling it. I often wonder how much money, I don't even want to make the money off it. Is it a profitable investment for people who are wanting to get into buying and selling horses? Is it makes sense to buy a 2-year-old, keep it for a year, break it, ride it for 6 to 8 months, and then sell it again? Like there's so much behind the scenes that you have to consider.
There's a lot of factors to consider. Who's the person doing it? Are they knowledgeable? Can they train? Right? If you're your own trainer and coach and you do a great job, then you've got a lot of things ahead of somebody that's an amateur that really needs to hire the help, right? Do you have your own place? Can you house these horses? Can you keep the costs down? I mean, even if you're looking at buying horses, developing and selling them, they all still need vaccinations. They all still need their feet done. They also need their teeth done. It's not just buying a horse and saying, hey, I can make $5,000 off of it. You have to put money into something to get something in return. We know horses are expensive. It depends on the economy. There are a lot of people horse shopping right now. Horse shopping at times is down. The winter people don't buy horses. They start. So getting back to horse
shopping. Yeah. So when you say horse shopping, how many messages a day, let's say, you get for requesting or wondering if you have any horses for sale? Do you get a lot of messages every day about your horse shopping?
Yeah, I get a mixture. It depends on, it could be, I could have 25 messages. I could have 10. It could be a mixture of, do you have anything available? I know you've had horses in the past, or it could be, my friend bought a horse from you last year. We like the experience. Do you have anything else available? Or it could be simply, I have a horse to sell. Are you able to help? The selling part is also a big thing. Like selling anything, it's hard to sell stuff because you have to be prepared to answer all the questions. And I think the biggest part in selling horses is people don't have everything together when they post something. If they post a horse for sale, have everything together, have all the information correct, have all the videos done, have all the pictures people want to see, because everybody wants to see the same things. We know it.
Okay, so what do they want to see? They want to see a picture of
full body picture, confirmation shot.
Yeah.
Usually, legs. Take pictures of the legs. They're going to ask for pictures of the legs. That person that lives 5 hours away will want to see the feet. Just take the picture. We know people ask for it. Okay. Have the history on the horse. What has it done in its career? Anything that you have on the horse that's going to help you advertise that horse. Being honest is the best thing you can do. And I think the honesty in selling a horse sometimes lacks. It's sometimes about getting that horse sold and making the money and not disclosing everything. And I think it's really important even for that well-being of the horse to know that that person who's purchasing that horse has all of the correct information. Because, I mean, I've had bad experiences in the past, it's not necessarily about the money, it's about the horse. You know, a horse that's not sound for jumping, and you don't tell people, hey, it can't jump. I mean, the intended use for that horse is a trail horse or can only flat. People want to see walk, trot, canter videos. They might want to see changes. Jumping a gym line, jumping a course, depending on what you're selling. If it's a dressage horse, then they want to see some movements, lateral movements. So I think it's just, and take good pictures. People don't want to see your horse sitting in the pasture. They don't want to see it at the hay. They want to see a nice confirmation picture. And honestly, when I see those pictures, I don't bother. That person hasn't, you know, they haven't done their homework. They're not serious about selling. You have to sell it. It's like, you know, selling yourself to get a job. It's the same thing. People want to know everything. And my biggest thing is honesty on the buying and the selling. You know, it makes people come back for more if they say, hey, that person I bought a horse from, that person's really honest. I've got a good experience with that person. I'm going to recommend that person.
That makes a big difference. Like you say, you're networking. And it's important. It's important to you're networking, because two friends tells two friends, and so on and so on and so on. It's so important to make sure that you be honest, because if you're not, it certainly comes back to bite you. And if you have one bad experience, that gets around as well. So you have to be very honest. So Lindy says, thank you again, Lindy, for the comment. I think I have the opposite issue. Laura, meaning me, thinks I may be too honest and disclose things I don't need to. Well, I think being honest is being honest. And, you know, yeah.
I agree. I mean, we really look at it. If somebody buys your horse and 2 months down the road or a month down the road, they find something and they've done it and you knew about it, you could be in a lawsuit. I mean, it depends on what the situation is, but I mean, I've had experiences with this. There's no point in lying about something, because like you said, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt.
But lying about something and disclosing something are different. Right? So you have to make sure you disclose things. And
that's right.
Yep.
Disclosure of something that you knew about, that you maybe have had checked out by the vet, that you do have record of, that you should have told the intended purchaser, hey, you know, because I mean, let's face it, we all would love to have a perfectly fully vetted 100% horse with nothing wrong, but stuff comes up. And I think you're going to get further if you're disclosing and honest. You know, people will deal with issues. They will. But if they won't deal with issues if you don't disclose it.
Right. So Karen says, thank you again, Karen Webster, for commenting. Really appreciate your comments here. Patrick is dead on right about being honest, I'm guessing. So Charlie says, thank you again, Charlie, for the comment. I also recommend vet check, pre-purchase exam, I guess we like to call them. So it's just a pre-purchase to let everybody know. And also, if you're going to look at a horse, I think it's really important, if you've never purchased a horse before, to take a knowledgeable person with you so that you have a good idea. You know, for example, Patrick or somebody who knows what they're doing, who's done this before, so that they can take a look at a horse. If there's anybody out there who's never purchased a horse before, let us know that you what you're doing, what you would do to go to get your horse to look at it. I know one thing, that as far as being on the selling end of horses, I think that a lot of times people who are trying the horse out, let's say it's their first time coming to see the horse, I think that sometimes they take way too long to figure out if this horse is suitable for them or not. Sometimes you can go, I mean, I know if I'm going to buy a horse, I could tell as soon as the saddle's on and, you know, you ride it around twice, well, this horse isn't suitable for me. And I know, dealing with people who are professionals, I've dealt with professionals selling a horse, they'll ride it like 10 minutes to say, okay, this horse isn't suitable for what I have in mind, but I do have another person that would be suitable for this horse. But if you get people who aren't sure or who maybe have never purchased a horse before, oftentimes they are just riding and riding, and the coach is giving a full hour lesson on the horse. And I really think that if you are going to purchase a horse, have an idea in your mind, and it's okay to say, this horse isn't going to be what I want. It's not trained enough, or it's not, it's not smooth enough. It's not the right size. It's not the right color, whatever it is. If it's not suitable, it's okay to say, okay, I'm not interested. Don't waste my time as the seller of that horse, getting a horse for a free lesson. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest thing is, I think the people that don't either get help or have help or seek help, they don't ask the right questions. There's a lot of questions to be asked when purchasing a horse, and you may only know the simple ones. Is the horse happy in the barn? I mean, there's really irrelevant questions to ask, and there's get down to the root questions to ask to see if the horse is suitable. And a lot of people buy the wrong horse. They buy based on the wrong specs, and they don't ask the right questions, and then you find out 2 months down the road they want to sell it. It's not working out. Like Laura, you just said, in 10 minutes, a professional or an amateur or coming with a coach, they know in 10 minutes. I've shown horses and people have ridden for 10 minutes, so they get off. They go, yeah, this horse works, or no. But like I said, it works for somebody else. But it doesn't take an hour to get a feel, right? You should work through it in 10 minutes and go through the buttons in 10 minutes, right?
So Lindy is also, thanks again, Lindy. In a perfect world, potential buyers would also be honest. That is so true. I agree with you. I'm talking about we're always thinking that the sellers are the one trying to take advantage. How do you handle someone coming to try a horse that isn't nearly as experienced as they say? Yeah, I've had that happen too. Yeah, exactly. For example, not able to really canter, or they tell you that they are going to be going pre-training eventing, or they're going to be eventing, and you go, yay, somebody's eventing person's going to buy my off-the-track thoroughbred. Yes, and then they get there and they can't get the horse to canter, right? Oh my gosh, well, what do you do? I think there's a liability issue here. I don't know. If Allison, if you're still on, you can chime in on the liability issue on that. But yeah.
I think you, like you said, liability, I think you have the right to refuse for the person to get on. Either, they come back with somebody that can assist them, that's experienced. It's the best. I mean, you don't want somebody getting on your horse and finding out they've told you a lie and that they're getting rushed to the hospital.
Oh my God, what a nightmare.
So honesty, yeah, Lindy's correct. The buyers have to be honest, because I mean, I've told people to get off horses in the past. It's just been a nightmare. Also, you know how fast it could take to ruin the training you've put into a horse. It doesn't take long, depending on your horse. So you want the experience to be positive. You want the honesty on both sides, and you want the buyer to be honest of what they're looking for and their riding capability. I mean, if you can't canter and you tell the people that you event, we're assuming that you can hand gallop. There's a bit of a block there. So
that was pretty, yeah, exactly. So, okay. So this is Isabel. Isabel says, I've been trying a horse. We were able to have a lease on it with option to purchase. That's an excellent idea. I have got a chiropractor on it with the owner's permission because I was noticing some discomfort. Our coach will be coming soon. Also, like she has seen us ride for 2 whole years and will be able to conclude if it's the right fit. So she's had a 2-year lease on a horse. Very good. That's a great idea, Isabel. Congratulations, and I hope it works out for you.
Just to touch. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, I was going to say, Tara. Tara says, thank you so much, Tara, for taking part and writing a comment here. She says, I have no issue politely asking them to get off. Yeah. Excuse me. Stop now. You can get off my horse before you ruin it. Allison. Thank you, Allison. In my medical opinion, the rider is responsible. Lawyer has left the building. Yeah, he's heard us talking about contracts and left maybe. The rider's responsible. Yes. Okay. Great. Now, we could have a whole program on that. Excellent. Okay, great questions, you guys. Thank you so much for everybody taking part. If you do have any more questions or comments, love to hear that. Okay. So what about getting back to the selling and that type of thing? What if you are wanting to do this, there are some things that you are going to have in your back pocket to make a little bit of money by flipping horses. What are some things that need to help you keep those costs down so that you can get a horse in, ride it for a while, and then sell it for a better price? What are some things that people need to know?
The quality of horse you're buying. And it depends on when you're buying it. So it's really tough. I think everybody's experienced over the past year with the pandemic, prices for everything has skyrocketed. It seems that everybody wants to buy a horse. And what happens is that the prices inflate because there's a demand. So horses, I find, are going really fast. They're going as fast as houses. There's multiple people wanting them, and it's really hard to get a good horse because there's none available. So depending on what you're buying, you can't buy, if we're buying a $1,500 horse, in reality, you still have to sink the same amount of money into a $1,500 horse that you do for a $10,000 horse. The costs are the same, right? Depends on what you're buying.
Talking about the farrier, board, veterinary care, feed, all those types of things, your tack and equipment, and your time that you're investing in it as well. So, right.
And it depends. A $15 horse, yeah, you could get off finding something like a diamond in the rough, but a lot of the times those $15 horses, they take the same amount of work, and to get a return on it, you're selling it for $5,000. People forget that, hey, I bought a $15 horse, I'm going to sell it and make money. But have you encountered or have you factored in how much you're going to spend to keep it and to work it? And how long are you going to keep it for? There's got to be a plan in mind, right? Is it green? Let's face it, green horses, they do take a lot of work. It's not a put 30 days in and try to sell it for $6,000. You could try, but they all take about the same amount of work. So it really depends on your resources. I think people forget too, also on the buying side, they say, well, I only have $6,000 to spend, but they forget that they haven't factored in trailering. They haven't factored the pre-purchase exam. And then, they find out they have all these expenses on buying the horse, but they think they only had the $6,000 to buy the horse. There's other things that you have to spend on top of buying the horse. So on both sides, it's a little bit of everything. And I think on the selling side, yeah, a person that has their own place, they can keep the costs down a little bit more, opposed to somebody that has to board those horses out. But horses all cost the same amount of money.
Yes. So as far as the base price goes, you have to put the farrier, you have your regular veterinary exams that you have to do, your vaccination, teeth, floating, that type of thing. And then there's those costs that kind of creep up overnight. Like you come to the stable one morning and your horse has got something, you just don't know where it got hurt somewhere in the paddock, that those emergency veterinary expenses that you have to also keep consider as well.
And if you're spending money on chiropractor, right? You had a comment about a girl leasing. They hadn't even bought the horse and they were doing chiropractor. Again, those are things to factor in. If you're buying something for $1,500, which lots of people do, there's nothing wrong with it. And you're finding that you have to do chiropractor work, that can get costly. If this is a horse that you're trying to keep forever, then it's a different story. If you're trying to buy something and try to get it comfortable, if it's maybe had a bad saddle fitting or something, but again, that's a cost that you have to incur in it. So
right. So I just want to say, if Lindy's still here, Lindy, what are some of the things? I know that you do a lot of stuff with your horses, Lindy. What are some of the things that you do with your horses regularly that maybe some people don't account for, but I know that you do this. Okay, so yay. Okay, so this broadcast is sponsored by Equestrian Skill Builders. Become a thinking rider. You'll progress faster, ride effectively, and be extraordinary. Now, I've got a free mini course. I'm not sure if anybody's interested. It's called Ride in Harmony. You can say goodbye to your bad rides and be understood by your horse. And you can find out how. I'm going to put the link into the comments where you can get this course for free. Just click on the link and you can get to the comments, get to the free course. Now, we do have a hot seat. I don't see Lindy. Oh, there she is. Okay, here's Lindy. Thank you, Lindy. I knew that you'd come through with me. She does massage, chiro, cold laser, corrective trimming, supplements. Oh, that's the other thing is supplements, right? Like you mentioned, getting a horse that was underweight and malnourished, right? Sometimes you do get those horses, get them from a feedlot or from an auction, right? Supplements, saddle fitting, the list goes on. So that's a partial list. Not to mention training if you are, getting a coach out to help you. And if you also getting a better price for your horse, it often has to have a show record. So you have to enter the horse shows. And we didn't even touch on that. We didn't even mention that as well. So that's another thing. Thank you so much, Lindy. Okay, so we're going to move on to the hot seat. Yay, hot seat. If you would like to have your position reviewed, please send me an email, thistleridge@hotmail.com. I'm going to put that on the screen if I can find it. Here we go. Send me an email, thistleridge@hotmail.com. We have someone who sent in some photos today, and she writes to me, "Hello, Laura. I was wondering if you could judge one of my hunter rounds from a Paso Robles A show. We weren't having the best show that weekend and didn't have a good warm-up, but I would still like to know what I can do better and what I can work on at home." Great. Thank you so much. Her name is also Laura. I hope she's watching right now. First thing I noticed about this was she says, we weren't having the best show that week and didn't have a good warm-up. Warm-up is the first thing that really is really important. Patrick, do you have any ideas for a good warm-up for going into the horse show ring?
I mean, I think you first have to know what type of day you're entering. Is it a cold, windy day? Is it rainy? Is it sunny and hot? To tailor your warm up, right? If it's a sunny and hot day, then and you have to know your horse. What's your horse like? How long does it take your horse to warm up? Does it take 20 minutes? Does your horse have to be warmed up for 40 minutes?
I'd like to know what she means by she didn't have a good warm up. Sometimes people just do too much warm up. So I think it's your warm up's not to drill, right, or to train. Your warm up is to warm up for the class. Right. So are you doing your longitudinal latitudinal supplements and getting the horse listening and tuned to the aids and maybe jumping a fence if you have to jump, if you're entering a hunter class or jumper class, and keeping it simple. We know that too, that if you keep going and going and going and going, then things could start to escalate. The horse gets tired. The horse, gets irritated from something. So I think just, overall knowing your horse and what your horse needs for a warm up. Okay, so here's Laura's picture. This is a picture that she sent in. Thank you so much, Laura. This is a great photo from the side. If you do send in photos, try to send them from the side so that we can see really good. Some of the other photos that she sent in, I'll show them after. The rider's leg was hidden by the God, my
standard.
Brain. Come on.
Standard?
Yes, the jump standard. Thank you, Patrick. So, generally speaking, what's your first impression of this horse and rider?
Nicely turned out. Nicely turned out and presented.
Beautiful, eh? That beautiful mane is braided and the tail looks gorgeous. She's got beautiful boots and jacket. Everything looks excellent. So let's go on from there. What's your, so like my first impression as a judge would be, oh, no, this is, like you say, nicely presented horse and rider. It looks like they know what they're doing. They're coming in and looks great. But let's get down into the nitty gritty of it, shall we? What do you think about this? I'm hoping I'm working on the screen.
Yeah, she's looking ahead. Her eyes are up and focused, and
okay, great.
It's good. It's the best thing.
The best thing is that she's looking forward. I'm guessing there's another jump coming up, and that she's looking forward to that. Picture perfect. Okay, so what next? What things would you like to improve on this rider?
The thing that draws me the most is her lower leg.
Yep, I agree with you.
So the way her toes positioned, or I think the way her leg is positioned all in all, I think she needs to just get her lower leg under her a little bit more. Her toes are out a little bit too much for my liking.
Yep.
In a general picture, that's kind of where my eye goes to.
Right. So I agree with you. And for me, what I like to think about is if we took the horse away from underneath her, what would happen to this rider? Would she stay standing up, and if she would land on the ground, or would she tip over forward or backward? That's what I'd like to think of. So for me, if we took the horse out from underneath her, she's not in balance with this horse. She's going to tip forward and land on her face.
Yeah. So
I think there's two things. I'm looking down at my screen here. So if you can't see me, it's just because I'm looking down. I've got two monitors. Anyway, so there should be a straight line, shoulder, knee, toe. And if we do the straight line, shoulder, knee, toe, you see, well, that's kind of not really where it should be. Shoulder, knee, toe, like this. Mm-hmm. She's not in balance. So her shoulder, for me, her shoulder should be here a little bit more, open up.
Yeah.
With her leg. And the front of her boot should be near the back of the girth. That's another kind of rule of thumb. Right? The front of her boot should be near the back of her girth. And it's not. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so that means to me that she's pinching here. She's pivoting the front end forward, and she's pivoting your lower leg backward. I think that's where the big issue is that she's pinching with her knee. So what would you do to help this rider?
The number one exercise that people should go back to is no stirrup work. No stirrup work in 2-point. 2-point with no stirrups, 2-point with stirrups. Over 2-point over poles, just trying to sink down the weight into your heel and get your leg in the correct spot. I mean, that's the two exercises that I would approach to try to fix the lower leg.
Excellent. To fix your lower leg, 2-point position, live in 2-point position. Okay, so exactly, so that we can get this happening here. Another thing that would help is I like the way your hands are. There's no interference with the horse's mouth, but I'd like to see the distance between her hands and her chest be more open, more distance between her chest and her hands. So right in here. So that just helps to bring your shoulders back a little bit more. I mean, if she were jumping a bigger jump, maybe that would be okay, but she's not. We'd like to see her keep in balance with the horse. So as far as exercises go, you mentioned, I'm going to just share another screen here. Just as far as exercises go, you mentioned a couple exercises. Here's the pictures that were sent, and because they are copies off the internet. They're really tiny and you can't see them, and I can't make them bigger. That's why I put them on that other. So here's one of my favorite exercises. What you said, Patrick, raise cavaletti, pulls in a straight line. Simple exercise. Get in your 2-point, come down the, come down the long side and get in your 2-point, turn, straight line, 2-point over raised pulls. You can do this at the walk, the trot, the canter. Easy peasy, right? Hey, Patrick, right?
Yeah, easy peasy. Easy peasy, but also for a lot of people, difficult.
But for some people, difficult. This is an excellent way to get the weight down into your heel. That's one simple exercise, simple setup. If you're looking for another simple setup, let's go to the next exercise. Same sort of thing. Same setup. This is also a great exercise for your horse. Same setup. Do your 2-point. Do your 2-point over these poles, except for going in this straight line over top of the poles. You can go, instead of going straight, just go at an angle. A little different for the horse. A little bit more fun also for the rider. And then finally, the final exercise, I would do same sort of exercise, just a little bit of a variation. Get in your 2-point, ride over raised poles, ride over raised poles in your 2-point position, and that will help get your weight down into your legs, lower leg and heel, and that will help prevent you from gripping with your legs. If you have any questions, what are some other exercises that you would suggest, Patrick? You also mentioned riding without stirrups.
Yeah, no stirrups, even posting with no stirrups, good exercise, and break it up. You could do posting no stirrups on the 2 short sides and 2-point no stirrups on the long sides, and just variation of your upper body, right? And you could still encounter the poles with the no stirrups. A lot of people don't spend enough time on no stirrup work, and that's the base of getting your leg better is working on those hard things that people don't like to work on, or that try to sway away from working on because they do the easier things, right? So I mean, it's only going to make your core and your lower leg stronger, and it's only going to be stronger for your jumping.
I like what you say, that people often don't like to do the hard things because it is hard. But these are basic exercises that all riders should do. And you know what? I recommend my students riding 10 minutes in each ride, whether they're in a lesson or not, to ride without strips. Just even at the walk, a little bit of trot. It helps to develop your seat that you really need so that you don't grip with your legs. Totally agree with you. Okay. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So, okay, we're going to wind things up now, Patrick. If anybody has any more comments or questions about what we talked about today, now's your final chance to get it in here, because we're going to wind things up. I want to thank Patrick so much for being with us here today. And thank everybody for your comments. Do you have any final words, Patrick?
If you're not experienced, get some help. Everybody's helpful. Make it a good experience.
How can people contact you, actually?
They can message me on Facebook. Okay, probably the best bet. Even if people have questions, there's no question stupid, and I think the biggest advice I can say is if you're looking to buy a horse, just make sure you have some knowledgeable help, because it's only going to help the experience and make sure that you find the right horse.
Okay, so we have a comment from Ski. It just put some under the Instagram hashtag. Instagram hashtag for what did you put under there? So thank you. I found this very useful. Thank you so much for taking the time to write a comment as well. I appreciate you taking part in this. And here's the way you can contact Patrick via Facebook. I just put it in the chat here. Thank you so much, everybody. And you can, I just want to get out of here. There we go. Okay, so thank you, Patrick. Become
You're
a
welcome.
thinking rider and understand your horse. You'll progress faster, ride effectively, and be extraordinary. Now go use this stuff. Go use this stuff. Have some guts. Go use this stuff. Thanks now. And we shall see you next week. Next week, I've got a person who specializes in off the track thoroughbreds rehabilitation, and she's going to share with us some excellent programming that she has. Thanks now. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, got one more comment here. Are my heels down is the hashtag on Instagram. Thank you so much.